Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. With me this week is Jeff Provost of Key Performance Integrators, where he is a huge fan of scorecards and being able to track what people call KPIs or key performance indicators. So you're going to pick very specific things within your business to track. Reason being is if you're like me, and you're a small business owner, man, as long as there's money in my bank account, I manage it fairly well, and there's some money in the savings, my bills are paid, I'm a happy camper. I run just me, so I know that there's X amount of money going out for some materials, there's X amount of money in the account. If I want to buy a tool, I can go buy it. There's not a whole lot going on, but as you grow and scale, there's employees, there's overhead from a shop, you're saving to buy a new truck, you have 401k matches going on, whatever it's going to be. And there's more and more. You've got to know what's going on. You have to make sure that you can have that business in the future. And if you're running off a profit and loss, you're already behind, because the soonest I know most businesses are getting them are usually, 10 days into the next month. So your month is closed out. You're already 10 days into the next month and you're saying, oh, we don't have enough money to continue on. So it's a lagging indicator. You're losing. You need to be ahead. You need to be on the cutting edge. You need to be up to date in what's happening with your business. That's where these scorecards come in. That's what Jeff's going to talk to us about. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. I want to welcome you to the show. If this is your first time, what are we doing here? Every week, Floor Academy comes out. We're interviewing people within the flooring industry or that are ancillary to it to help you improve your small business. I want you to go from owning a job to owning an asset to make it run easier and actually free up your time. A lot of us get into business because we want more time with friends and family, and then we end up with way, way less. And that's very frustrating. So by being able to implement little key nuggets from each episode, you will incrementally change your business. And it may not seem like it in a week, in a month, but 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road, all these little changes are going to add up, and you will have a stronger, better functioning business that helps you accomplish the goals you actually want to accomplish. So that's what we're doing here every week. You can help me out if you go to patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping the content to continue to come. There's lots of stuff to check out over at Floor Academy Pod, whether it's our business budgeting worksheet, which can help you figure out your day rate. There's a job cost analyzer, so you can kind of figure out what your profit margins are, whether you're actually making money or not on your projects. And there's the shop, so you can buy cool t-shirts, hoodies, things like that, and help support the show. The biggest thing you can do right now, and what needs to go on my scorecard, is reviews. If you are on Apple, which I know most of you are because it tells me that, take the 2 minutes, man. Please take 2 minutes, go leave a review. I very much appreciate it. It helps me punch way higher in the rankings over there, but it also just helps the show up in general to more people. And if you leave a review, I read them at the end of the show, and I'm running out. So you got to help me because I need something to say at the end of the show. Other than that, I'll be quiet. We'll let Jeff introduce himself and let us know who he is, what he does, why he does it. And then we will dig into how we can create a scorecard for your business.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Kyle. I really appreciate it. As Kyle mentioned, I'm Jeff Provost. I'm founder and CEO of Key Performance Integrators. And what we do is we provide executive level resources to help small business owners. So many larger companies have a chief operating officer, for example, and we provide part-time or fractional COO services to small business owners who have this great vision for where they want their business to go and the growth goals and all the money they want to make and things like that, but they often lack that person that can kind of help them get on a path to achieving their goals and doing it in a way that's affordable for the small business owner. So that's who we are and what we do and why we exist. So I started my career in bigger companies, publicly traded companies. So I kind of grew up with big company process and understand how efficient things work and how all the different pieces come together. But my true passion is really working directly with small business owners and just helping them figure out where it is that they want to go and what it's going to take to get there. And the scorecard is just one piece of that.
There's so many pieces, but we gotta put them together, right? You can't.
Exactly.
It's like a puzzle, and so you don't want that missing piece left out that the dog chewed up, and you can't ever solve it. So yeah, I love
nothing worse than that.
Oh, so annoying. And so I think this is a huge component. I think a lot of small business owners are probably like myself in that we have great vision, we know what we want to accomplish, but we get caught up in the day to day, and finding those 10 or 20 minutes a day to work on the business instead of in it can become a struggle. But when you have little things like a scorecard to where it doesn't take you too long to start actively tracking it, it becomes much easier. It's also, everything's a routine. And so it's going to be painful at first, and then it becomes part of your day. You're just going to have to go do it for a few weeks, and then it gets easier.
Absolutely.
So let's start out. I mean, where do we even begin? As there's a million things we can track, right? Anything is trackable, whether it's like, what time do I wake up? Did I brush my teeth today or not? We can track any number of things, but where do I even begin deciding what's important to my business?
Yeah, great question. So I think, and you alluded to this in the intro as well, Kyle. So many business owners, and if you're not doing this, you definitely should track their financial results, right? And it should be more than just how much cash do I have in the bank. You should have some type of an accounting system in place. You should be looking at your profit and loss statement each month and ideally your balance sheet so that you can grow an asset, not just a job, as you were saying. So many business owners will track their financial results, but oftentimes you get the information. It's a look in the rearview mirror, right? And so you're getting information when it's too late to actually make a decision that could help you deliver better performance. And so that's where the notion of a scorecard comes into play. And so it's really an opportunity to keep track of both some of the outcomes that you're looking to achieve. So that could be an outcome, could be a new client, it could be a completed job, it could be delivering a job at a certain gross margin or something like that. Those are all outcomes. And it can also include activities. So what are the activities that you need to do in order to produce those outcomes? So a scorecard really is just a very simple tool and simple way to keep track of those, what you deem to be the most important things for your business, and to have a means of looking at that on a weekly basis and holding yourself, or if you have a team, with a team, holding yourselves accountable to delivering on the things that you believe are important. So where it really starts is when you start thinking about what are the goals that I have for the business. So if my goal is about growth and, I want to go from $300,000 in revenue to $600,000 in revenue, I want to double the size of my business. Okay, so if it's all about growth, then what are some of the most important things that you need to do in order to grow? It's going to come down to things like lead flow, for example, right? So I need more leads. Well, where are you getting your leads from? Let's look at the different lead sources. Let's figure out, do I need to do more networking? Do I need to, be doing outreach to GCs who are going to bring me in to install, flooring and tile and things like that? Do I need to go and kind of make some more investment in paid lead sources or something like that? So if you're all about growth, then you probably want to track how many leads you're getting each week. And then
yes.
Right. So it's a no-brainer, but a lot of times people aren't doing these things, right? So you should track numerically how many leads you're getting each week. And then, what you really want to do with that lead flow is you want to track, have some semblance of stages in your sales process, right? So I get a lead, I'm going to go out and do an estimate, I'm going to deliver a proposal, and then I'm going to close that deal. It's either going to be won or it's going to be lost. So very simple sales process, 4 different stages to it. So you probably want to track how many leads you get. Do you actually go out and deliver an estimate? Did I get in contact with them? Did we get something scheduled? Did the estimate actually happen? Did they cancel it? Did I show up and no one was there? All those things that happen, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you track those things, then you can start to get smarter down the road with, how many leads you're going to need at the bottom. So, tracking how many estimates you deliver, how many proposals do you actually get out, and then how many do you actually close? So when you know those things, now you can start to get smarter in terms of, how you might think about making changes or investments to increase your lead flow. So if I want to double the size of my business and I know that I need 500 leads or 250 leads or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
knowing how many I need is a really important thing. And the scorecard is one such way that you can kind of keep track of that stuff.
It's funny you laid that all out like that way. So I just spent time. I know a lot of small business owners aren't going to have what it takes to purchase a quality CRM. So
Yeah,
I just
right.
built out a spreadsheet and it walks through like getting the lead right, get the name, where did
Mm-hmm.
it find out where it came from, right? Was it Google? Was it a
Mm-hmm.
website? Is it a referral? Who referred them? And
Mm-hmm.
then get their address, schedule the estimate. Did you go out and actually do the estimate? Did you send it off? Have you followed up? How many times have you followed up? And so if anyone wants a like lead tracker so that you can start figuring some of this stuff out, email me flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. I will send it out to you. You don't have to go through the website. You don't have to give me your email. I'm not going to spam you with a bunch of stuff at this point because I need people to test it. But it does have there's 2 pages to it. So there's like where you enter it and then it starts giving you results. And so it'll tell you how many leads total, what your close rate is, what the
Yes.
most referred sort, like what the biggest source is. It'll tell you like what the top source is. And I need someone that's really good at Excel to help me because I wanted to track the most 5 popular zip codes you close deals in as well. And I haven't figured that formula out, but
I can help you with that
working on
one.
it.
We'll do that
So,
offline. We'll do that
okay.
offline.
But it's super handy. It goes exactly in line. And then you could take that info and you could quickly update a scorecard that's tracking more details elsewhere. But you're right. If you don't know what's coming in, right? If you're telling me you want to
Mm-hmm.
grow and you don't know how many leads it takes to close one, are you 1-to-1? Are you 100%? Because you got a problem if you are, in my opinion. I like to be
Mm-hmm.
around 30 to 40% personally, but
Mm-hmm.
so that, 3 or 4 out of 10 is where I'd like to be. But now let's say the economy's shifting and it's getting harder. So maybe I'm 3 or 4 out of 20. So now I got to
Mm-hmm.
double the amount of leads coming in. And I need to know that information. So I know that I have to go to Google or to Facebook or my marketing agency and say, this isn't working for me anymore.
Right.
What's it going to cost to get, do I need to give you another $200 a month, $1,000 a month? Like how much more do you need to get me more leads? But at least, week by week, as opposed to your P&L. Well, your P&L is actually never going to tell you that. It's just not. And then how do you
No.
run a business when you don't even have the information you need?
Yeah. So in order, and this again, it comes back to what are your goals, right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's say your goal is to do 500,000 in revenue, right? And what's a good, what is a good like average deal size for flooring install for LVP?
Um, you know, let's call it 10K. Maybe like a week long job is going to be 5K in labor and 5K in material.
Okay. And then so like you said, if you close say 40%, right? So let's say you close 40% of your proposals, which is probably pretty solid. If you're that's a good target, 35, 40% or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So, if you have and then let's say how many this is for you and for your business, Kyle.
Yeah.
How many leads do you think you get that actually turn into a proposal? Like out of 10 leads, how
Man,
many do you actually deliver a proposal for, you think?
you're right. I would say through pre-qualifying, it probably takes me 20 leads to get, it's like a 50% rate to,
Okay.
so I'm going to weed out 10 out of 20 people,
Yep.
and the remaining 10 I'll go give an estimate to. And of those 10, I'm going to close 3 or 4.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. So and we have this cool little revenue and activity planning calculator that we built. So I just plugged these
Okay.
numbers in. So $500,000 in revenue for the year, $10,000 average deal size, 40% so out of every 10 proposals you deliver, 4 are going to close. And out of every lead you get, half of them are going to result in a proposal. So that means that you would need 250 leads, 125 proposals, and 50 deals.
Okay. So, if you want to try and you need just over, I try not to work 50 weeks a year. Realistically, you're probably closer to 46. So you need about 6 inquiries a week, which that's fairly reasonable.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And so if you look at it from, you take the 250 leads, divide that by 46. So you need 5 to 6 inquiries a week. And, then you need to deliver 3 proposals a week and get 1 job completed per week for 46 weeks. And there you are. So when you know these things, right? So if you start with, okay, I want to do $500,000 in revenue. And so if I need to get now 6 leads a week, what do I need to do in order to get 6 leads a week? Is it just a matter of going out and investing in digital marketing and paid ads on Facebook or Google? Or depending on your business and what lead sources work best, are you doing BNI and other networking groups, and do you need to reach back out to past clients and ask for a referral, or just touch base and see, do they have any other jobs that you could work on with them, or whatever. So you need to figure out what activities you need to do in order to get you to that 6 leads a week, right? And so by tracking this too. So if I say my goal is 6 leads a week, and every week I sit down and I keep a tally of how many leads I actually got. If I only have 3, and for 3 weeks in a row I only have 3 leads, so I'm off track. Something needs to change, or else I'm not going to hit my $500,000 revenue goal. So yes. I either need to reset my expectations, or I need to look at doing something different because what I'm doing isn't working. And so being able to identify that sooner rather than later, right? To say, okay, the warning light on my car dashboard's going off. I need to look at getting some service here, right? I need to do something different. And that is exactly what the scorecard is intended to do.
The only thing I'm seeing here, and this is what I found, is that we're tracking it in real time. And so I think a lot of people may get confused here. If you start marketing with somebody, I've always noticed like a 3 to 4 month lag in results, yes, because you're marketing for the future. So you're going to start paying money, and you're going to start tracking your leads. Don't get discouraged. You have to do this for the long haul, and because it's going to take time. There's not a lot of people that are in a buying decision now thing. I mean, there's always that client. I don't know that that's the person I want right all the time, but sometimes I do. Most of the time it's someone that they're going to see your ad. They're going to make a mental note. They're going to see another ad. Oh, well, maybe I really do need floors. Okay. Now let's reach out. Now let's get the estimate. I've had people reach out 18 months later. Hey, we're ready to go. Have never responded to the email, never responded to follow up, never any. 18 months later, hey, we're ready to go. Oh, whoops, we got to update that quote. I'm like, don't know where you're coming from, but they'll come out of nowhere. So there can be a long decision-making process going on in the background, let alone time to start increasing your leads. And so even though you start tracking this stuff immediately, don't be discouraged until a couple months have gone by, and then you can go to that company and be like, no, you're really not getting me any results. But other than that, no, I think it's super important. Like once you start having that information, then you can make really educated decisions about what you're doing and where you're investing your money.
Yeah. And the whole idea behind it is asking, the data helps you ask yourself a question, right? Is this working or not? And if the answer is, I still have confidence that this new marketing vendor that I just, formed a relationship with is going to work, but it's going to take some time. Like if you feel confident in that, that's great. But like if it's going on for months and you're never there, then again, you need to ask yourself, is this really working or not? Does something need to change? So, and I want to build on a couple other pieces here. So the thing with the scorecard, you tend to, you don't, a lot of people have a tendency when they kind of embrace this idea of measuring things, they oftentimes want to go crazy with it, right? And they want to measure everything. And then they have 50 things on this scorecard, and then it's not usable, right? So the idea is, what are the top, 4 to 10 things that are most important for me to know in my business? And let me track those things, right? So you to some extent, less is more. So in this example of leads and, thinking about how many leads, how many estimates, how many proposals, how many close, whatever, you need to know that information. Track that on the spreadsheet that you just described, though. Like just track how many proposals you sent out or how many closed lost deals you had or whatever on your score. You don't need to track all of those things on your scorecard. You can just track 1 or 2 that are most important. Yes. So that would be thing number 1. Thing number 2 is, and you kind of highlighted this with, what is your sales cycle and how long does it take for a client or prospect to make a decision? And knowing that, you need to be thoughtful and mindful in terms of what is your plan to follow up with those people after you've delivered a proposal, right? So you don't want to be that annoying, person that's reaching out every day or whatever. If it tends to take a month or 6 weeks or whatever, maybe you still want to touch base every couple of weeks and just, hey, just wanted to keep this top of mind, see how things are going, see how your decisions are progressing, see if you have any questions, those types of things. And so you could have something on your scorecard. Let's say you don't want to let any proposal that you've sent out go more than a week without a touch point or whatever. Then you could have that on your scorecard, number of open proposals with no touches in a week, right? So again, something to hold yourself accountable to doing that thing that's important to, closing that business over the long run. So you can really put anything you want on there. It kind of depends on what are some of the areas that you're most concerned about and that you would really benefit from tracking.
I think you're bringing up some good ones, especially right now. I know in Phoenix that a lot of guys and gals are, hey, I need it. It shifted very quickly for us here. And it went from people saying, hey, I need help with work to, hey, I need work. And so you're talking about being able to track how many touches, how many people have I not followed up with. Like if you want to survive through a downturn, you better be reaching out to old leads. The system of like you're not going to get 15 calls this week like you were 6 months ago, 2 years ago. You're going to have to follow up with old leads. You might have to call somebody 15 times to get that response, but you want to stay busy, be the guy that follows up, and then keep that habit when things are good again, because you will close way more and be able to scale larger than the competitors.
Be the guy that answers the initial inquiry too, right? Like from a homeowner's perspective, right? Working with contractors and things like that, there's nothing more frustrating than reaching out for a quote and getting crickets, right? And so if you suck at that, if you're not good at that, then that should be one of your scorecard items. My goal is to, reach out to every single prospect within 1 day or 4 hours or whatever. And then each week track how many did I do or how many did I not do, right? Like if I got 5 leads and I didn't reach out and close the loop to any of them within one day, then I'm not doing what's best for me in my business, right? So set the bar, and then the scorecard is a way to keep track of how well you're delivering against that, right? Against that standard.
So I guess the question becomes, is the scorecard something for me to key in on the areas where I really stink at business? If I can manage my finances fairly well, do I really need to track the finances, or do I need to go focus on the areas where I'm just horrendous at keeping the business flowing in a positive direction?
Great question. So what we typically recommend and what we typically see is there's always some type of a growth oriented measures on there. How many leads am I getting? How many proposals am I sending out? How many deals am I closing? Things like that. So those are kind of the standard growth type things. And maybe if you're depending on your strategy, if you're doing social media, how many social media posts am I doing? Whatever, those types of activities too. The other one that's usually really important is job costing, and looking at whatever your goals are for job costing. So if I need to get a 45% gross margin or whatever, then I want to track my each week. So what was my gross margin for all the jobs that I completed last week? If I look at that every week and I'm constantly, hitting my goal, then I'm probably going to hit my overall profitability numbers that I'm striving for, right? But if I'm not looking at it and I'm letting things slip, then I might be surprised where, I had all this revenue, but I'm not making the money that I wanted to make, right? So, tracking job costs, gross margins, often a really good one on the scorecard as well. So you can look, again, you're looking back a week, not a month, to say, okay, last week we were only at 35%. That's not where we need to be. So what do we need to do differently? Do we need to do change orders? Do we need to, did we not adjust pricing for materials? Did we measure, whatever the reason is, right? But you then, when you're off track, then you can start to ask yourself those questions so that you can learn from it. Right. So it's kind of one of those things. We either win or we learn. So we win, we hit our numbers, we hit our targets, or we learn from it. Okay, we fell short. What can we learn? How can we be better next time so that we don't continue to have the same level of performance? So
well, and I like that it's instantly there, right? Like you said, if you're doing it weekly, and so if you're running multiple crews and you're tracking the gross profit margin on each project, because you're doing job costing, you're going to see if crew A is always on target, and then crew B is the one holding you back, or is it crew C or D, or is it, then I can dial in and start saying, okay, what's going on over here? Let me address that issue so I can fix it. Or, if I got to cut them loose, I got to cut them loose. But you have that, as opposed to, well, I'm just going to track how much money we had overall and how profitable we were, right? You can hide a lot of sins within if you're taking base numbers and you're not dealing with very specifics. And I'm not saying we have to get super into the minutia here and, look at everything from how well you did on the material to how well they did on the baseboards, to the install, to, the change order on self level. But overall, as a project, how did it go? And with that crew, right? If you're running something larger, you probably need a little bit more detailed information than a single man. Look, I only can do one project at a time, so there's not a lot to track. But I can tell you that, yes, if I had multiple crews going, I would be tracking those crews individually so I could tell the performance of each crew. But I'd also probably offer some kind of a bonus system behind that to incentivize them to be better.
Absolutely. So if you hit your gross margin targets, if you deliver on time and you get a review or whatever, then, there's some other incentive or something like that. Right. So, so those are some of the kind of the common standard type of measures. And then back to your other question, do I need to put something on there to address a specific problem area? Yeah. So a lot of times,
yes, you do, dummy.
Yes, you do. No, not dummy, but that's a great way, right? So I've had it in the past where at a former company, we had about 40 employees, and people were burning out. They were working too much. They were, consistently working, too many hours, and they were just getting burnt. So we started tracking because we had everyone log their time and things like that. So we started tracking the number of people that were working more than 40 hours in a week, and we wanted to see that number go down. And we were very, mindful of the impact of that, right? So that was an example of using a scorecard to track something that was a problem area that we wanted to address. In other instances, we've had it where there needs to be in larger organizations, we really need to focus on employee recognition. So tracking how many, employees were recognized or whatever, or in some larger companies, again, where there's people are saying that their managers aren't communicating with them enough and they're not clear about what's going on or whatever, then tracking things like the number of one-on-ones that managers are having with their teams. And so you can really use it to track anything, right? And again, less is more. You don't want to track too many things, but usually if you have one or two like problem child type of metrics and measures on there that you want to make sure you're keeping top of mind and you're keeping your finger on the pulse, that's usually a good thing.
Okay. No, I like it. I want to dig a little bit more into not having too many in just a second. I need to interrupt us here, and then we will come back and we'll dig more into this. GoBoard is engineered for durability, yet up to 80% lighter than cement boards. Easy to cut and handle, it can be cut on site right where it's installed using a basic utility knife without crumbling or disintegrating. Best of all, the waterproofing is built in. GoBoard half-inch thick 48 by 64 panels are now available. Ask your supplier to bring it on for you. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for more information. If you're looking for a powerful and convenient solution to streamline your flooring estimates, look no further than our cloud-based virtual estimating software. With this innovative tool, you'll be able to create detailed and accurate estimates in real time right from the job site or your office. Collaborate with your team, manage projects, and access all the information you need to make informed decisions all in one place. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this software will help you get ahead in the flooring industry. Try it today and see the difference Virtual Estimates Now can make. Check out the link in the show notes to demo the program or visit estimates.flooracademypod.com. All right, Jeff, you're talking about we don't want to have too many things to track on our scorecard, but can there be multiple different scorecards in a larger organization like you yes. came from? Or if I'm scaling my flooring company, right? The CEO is going to probably want a different scorecard than the COO and the CFO or the CIO. And then as we work our way down, the manager at the Wally World that's in charge of the front end checkout probably has a way different scorecard than the guys at the top or the ladies at the top, right? So there can be too many for one person, but can there be too many overall when they're being used in the right way?
Great question. So what we often say and find is at the company level, you want to track the company level things. You want to track your leads. You want to make sure that you've got a good handle on growth, make sure that you're on a path to achieving your goals for the year, and understanding, lead flow, sales conversions, profitability, client experience, whether that be reviews or if you're doing surveys or something like that. Those are the things you typically want to know there. So you can very much have a next level down scorecard as well. So what we see a lot of times, especially if you're running, let's say you're a larger, flooring company, you've got multiple crews, right? So, and whether that be kind of self-performed or whether you've got subs or whatever, you could have a scorecard for a sub crew, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
what's most important for them? So, they may or may not have anything to do with job profitability, right? Because you're doing the estimates and things like that. But do you have a certain process that you want to make sure that you follow? And are there things that are really important to the client experience that you want to make sure that they do 100% of the time? Do you want to do things like before and after pictures? Do you want to make sure that that you're asking for a review, that you're asking for a referral? Do you do a survey? And again, if you're now doing these things at the crew level, now you can compare crew A to crew B
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, right? So you can very much have a whole bunch of different things that are important to a department, to a crew, even to a particular job. If it's a long-term job and you're doing a big commercial building, you've got, room by room or whatever, there's a lot of different ways that you can use this same concept.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of makes sense for you and your business. So what we typically say is, there's often one or two things that are on the company level scorecard that also flow down to either that department or the crew level. And the idea behind that is, and I say this lovingly, you want someone other than whomever is like on the company leadership team to feel pain for delivering on that thing. It shouldn't just be the owner that cares about this, right? Other people in the company need to care, need to know what's expected of them, and need to feel accountable to delivering on these things that are important to make sure that we've got a great experience and we're able to achieve our goals, right? So the scorecard is a great way to do that. And because it's just very clear, here's what good looks like, here's what
Mm-hmm.
I expect of you, and this is how I'm going to measure success. So, I've found that people want to do good work, right? Yes, there's always people that are going to be lazy and whatever, but people want to do good work, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like if you can give them the goals, give them clear expectations, and give them some guardrails, right? So they don't go off and kind of do their own thing or whatever. That they tend to respond really well to that and appreciate that.
That there's a really great point in that you're saying to give them guardrails, and you're giving them clear expectations of what they need to accomplish. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of small businesses I see are, there's no job description. There's
Mm-hmm.
no set standard of how we're going to accomplish something day to day.
Mm-hmm.
It's come in, do as I tell you to do, right? It's a lot of micromanaging where how do you scale that? Well, you can't. And so now, well, look, I'm tracking these things on you. You need to be successful in these areas. Now I know what I have to do, how I have to perform. And there's clearly, if I start excelling, then I can come to you and say, hey, I'm really
Mm-hmm.
killing it. I think I deserve some more money. Or, hey, I'm really good at this. I'd like the opportunity to go to the next level, right? Like, is there
Mm-hmm.
a promotion into management available for me, or can I become the foreman, or whatever the question may be? But now they know what's going on. I know a lot of people within this industry use the term helper. I
Mm-hmm.
despise it. I can't aspire to be much when I'm a helper and I'm just told to go make cuts for you.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you give that employee that you have to let them know where they need to get to the next level, right? What's the scorecard that you can develop for them, right? Do they need to actually know how to measure the cuts on their own? Um, do they need to only make one screw up a week on cuts where they
Mm-hmm.
I look, because I know when I started I'd screw up making a cut 3 4 5 times, then it was like, you need to stop, we don't have enough waste factored
Mm-hmm.
in for this. So what can you judge them on that
Yes.
you can track and actively give them feedback on, as opposed to, man, I can't believe you don't know what a chop saw is, and you brought me, a skill saw, and now you're super frustrated with them, right? Maybe that is the thing, right? They can name off 10 tools and show you where they are located in the trailer. I don't know what it needs to be for you, but I think there needs to be something to where you're holding this person accountable so that they know they're performing well.
Absolutely. And a lot of times that comes back to, and especially when you're dealing with the helpers, right? Create a checklist, right? And not a score, like create a checklist of the things that you want them to do. So we have a client that we worked with recently, still working with, and they do flooring and tile and paint and things like that. And had someone that wanted to kind of put into more of a field supervisor role. And so we did exactly what you just described. We actually took the time and we created a job description. And we started to kind of lay out, like, these are the things that we expect of someone in this role. You're going to manage 3 to 5 jobs at a time. You're going to communicate and coordinate the schedules and things like that with the clients. You're going to deliver the materials to the job sites. You're going to walk through the initial job with the crew and make sure that everyone is clear in exactly what we're going to do. You're going to add pictures into Builder Trend. You're going to do these different things, whatever. So like just made it super clear, step by step, like these are the expectations of someone in this role. And so now it's not a question about what good looks like. It's not a question about, what am I supposed to do? And then we peeled off from that and said, okay, what are the 3 to 5 things that are related to these duties that we want to track so that we can keep a tab on, what good looks like week to week, right? So how many jobs are off track? How many reviews did we get? How many referrals did we get? These are all part of like this person, when they're closing out the job, we create a little QR code with a link directly to their Google review and say, hey, look, if we did a great job and you're happy, this would really help me. Can you just scan this and leave a review, right? That's within his responsibilities. And so we track it. How many reviews did we get last week compared to how many jobs did we complete? How many jobs did we complete on time? How many jobs are off track? How many warranty issues do we have? Whatever the case may be. And that's how it all kind of comes together. And so now we're taking someone, we're developing them, we're creating absolute clarity in terms of what success looks like in this role. And now when they continue to perform well, they've got a good case for why they should, be given a chance to make more money. And we can have a more intelligent conversation as opposed to an emotional conversation about that stuff.
Definitely. And that's, I think a lot of times where small businesses struggle is it does become emotional because there isn't anything, there's no data to back it up on why you can or can't do it. And so I like that you not only were able to make a job description, which once again is something I see a lot of contracting businesses lacking. And well, I just need somebody to go do this. So just go, well, do what? Like, where am I going? How do I advance? Right? Like, we're missing very basic things. And then out of that job description, you were able to make the scorecard to assess how well that position is doing. And so they go hand in hand. I love how it's synchronizing here amongst multiple steps that kind of need to be put in place. And so as you go, and it sounds like if somebody were to call you up to get these fractional CEO services, these are things that would start happening. They would be like, well, I just need to be able to track this. And you would be like, okay, well, who does those things? Right.
Exactly.
Well, this person. Okay. Well, let's define that for you. Like, is that really what's happening when someone's looking to get these fractional services? You realize it's not just in like developing a scorecard for them. It's, oh, you're missing this and this and this. And so let's start fixing little chunks, but the overall thing is not at all what they thought they needed. And then it comes out on the
Absolutely.
other side
And,
as to, go ahead.
yeah, that's a big part of it. It's really about where do you want to go and what is it going to take to get there? So I'll just share a quick story. So we had another contractor client that came to us and they doubled the size of their business in 2021. We started working with them towards the beginning of 2022. They doubled the size of their business and thought everything was great, but then they ended up losing money. And so revenue was awesome, but profit just wasn't there. And in the first quarter of 2022, in the doldrums of winter here in the Northeast, they lost $150,000. And that's a big hole to try to climb out of, right? And so we engaged with them in March of last year, and we started looking at the sales process. So what did I do? They've got their trucks wrapped and phone number big bold on the side of the trucks and the vans and all that stuff. So I called the phone number, rings 11 times, no one answers, no voicemail. I don't say anything. I'm waiting to see if anyone calls me back. No one calls me back. I call the sales rep the next day and say, hey, did you miss a call from me? Oh, yeah, I did. I was in an estimate. Sorry, I was really busy, but I always call back. Like, well, you don't always call back because you didn't call me back. So that's fault, right?
Yeah.
So then they happen to have a phone system that had some reporting. We looked at, pulled some reports. They missed 60% of their phone calls in the 4 months preceding that. So
wow.
In the time where they're losing $150,000, they were only answering 4 out of every 10 phone calls. So we looked at their sales. We went through that process. Okay, how many leads, how many proposals, how many estimates, how many closed, blah, blah, blah. So we did the math, and lo and behold, had they answered the phone, they would have made $150,000 in revenue. So their loss was a result of their inability to answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then we said, okay, what are the different solutions we have in place we ended up finding an answering service. They do all these other things, whatever. But that's an example of, they knew that they had a problem because they were losing money. They knew that they wanted a kind of a fresh perspective on their sales process, but they had no idea that this problem even existed. You know what I mean? And so that's the benefit of working with kind of an external person to kind of give you a fresh look at your business and everything, right? Is those types of things. So then we said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We have a plan. We put all these things in place. And now we start focusing on, okay, what are the things that now that the salesperson isn't answering the phone and taking these estimates anymore, what needs to change with their role? So now they don't have to do all that. Now they just get an estimate that shows up on their calendar and they go. So what does that process look like? And how do we think about using their time differently and all that stuff? So that's kind of how that all works together.
Okay. No, I like it, right? You can start assessing things and change and adapt and overcome. I know in our initial conversation, one of the things that interested me, and it may not have been with you, it may have been, I forget his name, the gentleman that connected us. I have it here. Tim, right? Tim.
Yeah.
So he had mentioned that just based on where you're out of, companies are able to go and get money from, it sounds like, the local government to build their businesses. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is available everywhere. There's probably some way, somehow, but essentially you're working with companies and they're not paying a dime for your services because they're getting funding to be able to grow their businesses elsewhere. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that, because it's always great when you don't have to spend your own money to be able to advance your business forward and become more profitable.
Absolutely. So we're located in Massachusetts, and we work with companies all over. But for companies in Massachusetts, and we've had some success in New Hampshire as well. We have something called the Massachusetts Workforce Training Fund. So every company in Massachusetts, as part of their payroll taxes, contributes to this fund, and then it's kind of executed by the state, and they give training grants to companies to help improve the skills of the workforce in the local communities. So we have a scorecard workshop, for example, that's approved by the Massachusetts Workforce Training Fund, where we can go into a business and we can teach you how to build a scorecard, how to use it to, drive accountability within the organization and things like that. And so they can get, the companies have to pay for it, but then they get reimbursed by the state for it. So it ends up being free. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of other states that have similar programs, and if anyone is interested in that, I'm happy to kind of have a discussion and explore what that might look like, and see if there's opportunities there to kind of leverage some of those funds to help improve your business.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome of you, because that's what I'm wondering, is that we had that conversation and I started looking, mm-hmm. and I can't find anything in Arizona, but I don't know that I am searching the right things. I know earlier in this year, I interviewed a friend of mine from San Antonio, and she uses the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act to get free employees. And so through the Department of Labor, they have funding that goes out to the states, and then you call your unemployment office, but you can get an employee for at least half the cost for 90 days, if not the full cost for 90 days. Right. And so if you can start taking these things and combining them, right now, I get somebody free for a 90-day probationary period, and then I can have somebody come in and help me develop a scorecard system so that I'm actually tracking things in my business for free. And then, maybe it goes on beyond that, and there's other things that get approved for you to come in and help me advance, where I'm getting better systems and processes put in place.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. It's hard as a small business owner to be able to advance your company, and there's money out there to do these things. You just have to find it. But when you're stuck doing the day to day, it's not even on your radar to go and look for it. And so just to be able to have somebody that's like, hey, I can help, or if we can start, finding different resources, and I'll work with you if there's a link to the Massachusetts, and you said Rhode Island, right?
Massachusetts and New Hampshire have
New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Yep. Yeah.
But I just did a quick search, Arizona workforce training. I did a search for Arizona Workforce Training Fund, and it came up with Arizona at Work, and they have a number of different training programs and on-the-job training and customized training programs and whatever. So I think most states have something in some capacity. So it's worth kind of just doing a quick Google too, and seeing what you can find out there.
Definitely make some phone calls. Look, you're slaving away installing flooring. When you're not learning while you earn, listening to the podcast, get on hold with somebody in your, the state government, and wait 3 hours for them to come online, and maybe you get pointed in the right direction. But I think long term, like, that investment could pay huge dividends.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What kind of changes have you seen by companies implementing just these basic scorecards, like the flooring, paint, and tile business that you're working with?
So just that example, right? So I mentioned that they had, prior to starting with us, they doubled the size of the business, but they ended up losing a bunch of money, right? So last year we finished the year, they grew 80%, and they were profitable. So on top of making an investment in us too, right? So and this year they're on path to do another 70 to 80% growth year at like a 10% net profit at the end of the day. So they're very happy with everything that was put in place. And so it starts with, where do we want to go? What's that vision? What are our big goals, right? How do we make it super clear for everyone in the business and the company where we're going and why we're going there, and how we're going to measure success, making sure that everyone has a number and a scorecard to track it and hold each other accountable. And then having meetings and a regular, kind of look at things to make sure that when things are off track, that we're diving into the details, we're identifying what are the problems that are preventing us from achieving this result that we're setting out to achieve, and how do we fix it? So when lead flow is down, what do we have to do, right? We might need to get scrappy. We might need to get creative. We might need to, dramatically increase our phone activity or something, right? Because we just need to make this thing happen, or else we're not going to do this thing, right? We're not going to achieve our goal. And so, vision, good data and measures that show, are we on a path to achieving that vision? Creating clarity for the team, having, good productive meetings with the company to make sure that you're looking at the results and solving problems together. Those are the things that really make a difference.
Well, I like that you're talking about, you have a vision and you're getting data, but then you're disseminating the data to everybody else involved. I think a lot of times people at the top start looking at this stuff and they're just like, well, we're not going in the right direction.
Right.
And if I don't know, I just was talking about, being able to have values with the last week's interview was about core values. If your employees don't know your core values, then how do they know how to act within your company? And if you don't know your core values, how do you know how to hire somebody to come work for your company? Because you had your chance in the interview process to weed them out. And so if the employees don't know the vision of the company and they don't know what's being measured and how to get there, how do they help you, right? What's the point in hiring them? Because they have no idea. They're just there wasting their time.
Exactly. And so the other piece that, especially in a smaller, very closely held business, right, there's sensitivity, right? You don't want to tell people that you're making $1 million in revenue, and they don't necessarily equate, like, that doesn't mean that I, as the owner, am making $1 million. That means the business is, right? But they see $1 million and they think, oh, this guy's rich and he's only paying me, $18 an hour or whatever. So there's sensitivity in that, right? Like, you don't want to share everything necessarily. That's where knowing your numbers and knowing what it takes to deliver on the results that you're looking to do. So maybe your scorecard, if you're sensitive about that stuff, maybe you don't have the actual revenue, but you have the job, you have the gross margin per job, you have the number of leads, number of proposals, number of reviews, you have those more activity-based things, and you keep the P&L stuff, the sensitive stuff, to yourself, right? That's fine too. You just need to make sure that what you're sharing with everyone, that that if we deliver on these things, then I'm going to hit my $1 million. I'm going to hit my $500,000. I'm going to whatever. So you need to you need to know the numbers.
Yes, you need to know the numbers, and you need to have a direction that you're going. If you're not setting goals and you don't, if you don't have anything to put on a scorecard, what are you doing? Like, if you want to own a job, which a lot of contractors do, stop. I get it. Okay. You hate working for people, but honestly, you'd be better off going and working for someone, because you're probably not paying taxes. You're probably not saving for them. You're not calling people back. You're giving us all a bad name. Go work for someone to where you can just show up, get on payroll. Your taxes are going to be taken care of. And then, you get told, show up here, you get the job done. Everybody's happy. It makes it easier. I think one of the worst things that's happened in the trades, especially in flooring, was we were all sold the lie of, oh, you got to work for yourself. It's the best thing ever. It's the furthest thing from the truth. It's not the best thing.
Running a business is hard.
Yes.
It's hard. And it's not for the faint of heart,
No, I mean, we're talking about all these things that we need to look at and track, right? Like, oh, well, I want to be a flooring installer professionally. I'm going to go open up an LLC. Okay. Well, now I have to track my leads and my social media. I'm going to go off your little scorecard here, right? How many new proposals were added this week? How many did we close? What were they worth? How many surveys did we get? What were the survey scores? How many jobs were over the budget? What was the profitability? All these things, right? So I went from being the guy that could show up and just put a floor in for Mrs. Smith because my boss, John, told me to go do that, to the guy that has to find the leads, secure the leads, manage everything, get the materials there, show up, do the install, get the review afterward. Now I got 8,000 things going on. You were really good at flooring, but you probably aren't so great at all those other things. There's not many people that are. There's a lot of people that say they are, but not even. I fully admit I am not great at this stuff. I'm okay at some of it, but there's room for tons of improvement. But
and that's the thing. Man. So there's tons of ways to get help and to outsource different pieces that you're not good at, that don't break the bank, and that, even if it's just on a short-term basis to get something up and running, and then, you can kind of manage it on your own or whatever. Like, don't be too proud to ask for help, right? Like, no one ever started out and knew all this stuff. The only reason I know all these things is because I've worked for big companies and small companies, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, right? And like running businesses for that long. So it's different, right? But you can't expect to just kind of step in and know all this stuff and do a great job at it. So don't be too proud to ask for help.
I think that's some great advice. You got to get help. You got to be willing to learn. You need to be willing to get uncomfortable. If you're going to stick with,
Mm-hmm.
once again, if you're just going to stick with what you know in your old ways, please go back to working for somebody. Do us all a
Absolutely,
favor.
yeah.
Just do
Yeah.
us all a favor, because we don't need any more help making the stereotype of contractor any stronger than it is. As Jeff pointed out, he
Mm-hmm.
called and he's working with the company and they couldn't even call him back. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't need to further this stereotype of contractors are horrible blue collar slobs and they can't call people back, and they open their door and 3 weeks of McDonald's spills out in front of the house, and their
Mm-hmm.
dashboard's covered in who knows what old estimates and anything else. So
And again, on the help
good.
front, right?
Hmm?
So there's fractional resources, there's part-time resources, there's books that you can read to teach you these different things. There's mastermind groups that you can join that where you can get together with other kind of like-minded people and kind of go through things together. So I know it takes work and it's effort and you're already super busy and all that stuff, right? But if you don't take a little bit of time to kind of invest in yourself, and like if you really truly want to have a business, if you really truly want to build an asset, not just, buy yourself a job and all that stuff, then you need to make sure that you're taking some time for yourself, and you need to make sure that you're getting yourself the support that you deserve, right?
Hmm.
Taking that entrepreneurial leap and going out and building the LLC and doing this thing, and that grit that takes is incredibly it's so important, and it's something that I'm always impressed by when people are willing to kind of take that risk. You're taking a big risk when you do that,
Hmm.
right? But don't put everything at risk by thinking that you've got it all figured out.
Love it. I think that's some amazing advice, and we'll close it out there. I love that you mentioned mastermind groups. If you're interested, flooracademypod.com. Click on the little link for masterminds. I love getting 5 business owners into a group. I'm going to call myself a business therapist now, because sadly, like the groups were started and they are super goal oriented, right? We want to go in, we want to set goals, we want to hold each other accountable. That's where the intention really started from. What I realized was that business owners committing to the group and the goals, but being able to show up every 2 weeks and externalize these conversations that they constantly have with themselves is what's making the biggest difference. Is just being able to talk through it to people that understand. They may not even need a response from the rest of the group, but just being able to get it out has made the largest difference.
I've been part of some myself, and a lot of times the answer.
Hmm.
You just need someone else to like confirm that what you believe to be true is actually true, right? So just that sheer act of like talking with someone and them saying, yeah, that's good, it's really helpful, right?
Yes, it's awesome to watch it happen, but like I said, well, you said it right. You know what needs to be said, but as entrepreneurs, we're stuck having that conversation with ourselves. There's not a lot of people during the day we can go to, and so we internalize our conversations with ourselves, and you can only process it one way, that way. And then you start saying it out loud, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, fine. Like, I know the answer. Like, yes, I have to change this, that, or the other thing. And then the rest of the group comes along, they're giving insights, and they're kind of helping you process everything. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. They're going to call you out on your bullshit, because
Mm-hmm.
the sad thing is that this analogy works really well for flooring. Is, as a flooring installer, you generally get a 12-inch view because you're on your knees face down doing this task of installing. It's not often you pull back and you get that 30,000 foot view of your business. And by joining something like a mastermind group, you're talking about it constantly and giving other people that 30,000 foot view. They can call you out on your nonsense very, very quickly and just be like, no, man, that ain't going to fly. Like, I'm not going to accept your excuses. I'm not going to buy into this. This is your problem. You already admitted it. Why won't you actually go fix it? And that it's awesome to see it happen and the bonds that form and where people are at. And there's, I've got multi-million-dollar companies working with companies that aren't even at 300,000 yet. And there's mentoring that happens both ways. And that I think larger companies forget what it's like to be scrappy, but the scrappy company needs to learn from the more organized company.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that'll do it for us, Jeff. Unless there's anything we didn't hit on or a quick, insight that you have for us.
No, I think I would encourage everyone to just, whether you go down the scorecard path or not, really think about, like, make sure that you take the time to think about your goals, write them down, and then, identify what are the things that you need to do every week in order to make sure that you're on a path to achieving those goals. So if you do those things, then you are more than likely going to see better results than what you're getting today.
Awesome. We will get a link for the scorecard into the notes. I'll get your website, which is kpintegrators.com. And I think that's going to do it for us, folks. I appreciate you tuning in once again. Leave a review, and that would help out a lot. Thank you to the sponsors of the show for helping make this happen and getting you the information that you need in your life. So, all that being said, oh, don't hit the mic. We did so well this time. When will the highly anticipated new season of TICE TV from the International Surface event be streaming in 2023? Coming this April to TICE is the premiere of the Spring Product Celebration Series. The season will deep dive into products and services from across the flooring, stone, and tile industry, featuring impressive brands such as Shaw, One Floor, Laser Products, and more. The new season is being hosted by the iconic Lisbeth Calandrino, who has been captivating the industry and her audiences with eye-opening points, practical tips, and engaging personal stories through her industry experiences, books, and motivational speaking. Discover more at ticetv.com and follow TICE TV on Facebook for live airing alerts. All right, couple of reviews. You got to leave them, otherwise I can't read them. Big D071369 says, it's great to have someone doing this for the industry, and there's tons of great information in these episodes. Luker2 says, this is a very well done podcast and extremely informative. In my opinion, the industry needs this in a big way. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Jeff had some amazing points here. Get a scorecard, get some goals, figure out what you want to do and where you want to go with your business, and start tracking it to hold yourself accountable. Thank you, Jeff, for your time, and we will catch you all next week.
Thank you so much for having me, Kyle. Thanks all.